it's a little bit burnt. And I can explain why it's burnt in 2 different ways. So I'll do that at the end of the story. But my story isn't as, the reason is every time I eat cornbread or I read about cornbread, I think of a specific memory, which is really not that important, but it really stuck out. I don't know why. So what happened was, back in elementary school, I went to an international school in Brazil. So we had this thing called International Week. And once a week in a year, we would, celebrate cultural differences. So every classroom would be assigned a specific country. 5th grade was usually the US of A. So I was in 5th grade this time, and we were celebrating the United States of America. And one of the projects was just, bring in like native dishes. And my teacher, Miss Moth, she was American, she gave out recipes. And some of the students brought in a thing called cornbread, and I really liked it. So I was like, oh my God, I have to find the recipe for this. But the thing is, I was painfully shy when I was growing up, so I was too scared to ask for the recipe for anybody, even the teacher. So during class time, I saw the recipes posted on the wall, and I was sitting right in front of it. So I was like, trying really hard to write down exactly what the recipe was without being noticed, very discreetly, like a 5th grader would be. But the thing is, it was very far away, so I was squinting and leaning forward. I was writing really fast, frantically. And my teacher caught me. So she walks over as she's giving the lecture, and she just pulls it out from the wall and puts it on my desk in front of me. I was so embarrassed. My face lit on fire, I swear to God. It was really embarrassing. I don't know, she probably said something like, you could have done this after class, or you could have asked me, but since I was really shy, I didn't. And I figured everybody was looking at me and be like, oh my God, that fat kid. I don't know. She just wants food. So every time I think of cornbread, or I eat cornbread, I think of that specific moment in my life in 5th grade when I really wanted the recipe. So that was embarrassing. So that's my story about cornbread. And the reason it's burnt is not because I forgot to check it every few minutes, but because in Portuguese, when you do something embarrassing, you say, my God, that's really queima, fume. Queima fume is it burns your film. That's really embarrassing.
Mm.
So it's burnt. Because it was really embarrassing for me. So that's my story.
Wow. So you intentionally burned it?
No.
But that's a good cover. That's a nice line. I'm gonna start using that.
It's kind of interesting to picture Steph being shy.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out.
It's just being awkward when you're young. Everyone's awkward.
Oh, so awkward. I am still awkward.
I would have covered it by jotting down every recipe.
So that was embarrassing.
See, being awkward as an adult is endearing. I think it is. I think awkward people are awesome.
Okay.
So, I will tell my story now. So I brought the couscous with carrots and raisins. Okay, so my story is a story about disappointment.
I like the beginning already.
Everybody laughs at that. That's just me.
Yeah. It's a very disappointing story. So
We all relate.
So about 2 years ago was about the time that I found out about couchsurfing. And the reason I joined couchsurfing initially is that I was applying for a Watson Fellowship in sustainable communities or something like that. Basically, my project was not very well written or thought out, and so I didn't even make it through the first round of selections for Watson Fellowship. So I didn't get to achieve my dream of traveling all over the world. So that was the first disappointing thing that happened. But the year went on, and this was my senior year of college, and and a lot of other disappointing things happened, but it was okay. I graduated. That was not disappointing. And after that, I tried to apply to AmeriCorps, but they lost my application, and by the time we figured all this out, it was too late. Also disappointing. Then, so I got back to Pittsburgh, and I started coming to some couch surfing stuff, but I was pretty intermittent about it because I was looking for a job and kind of busy. And I was unemployed for 6 months, which was really disappointing. But
How?
You know what, though? I feel so much better about my life.
Me too.
You can make a living just telling the story to pick people up.
If you like, we can talk later and you can feel better about it.
But things got better. In January, I got a job. I stopped looking for an engineering job and became a pharmaceutical chemist, which is kind of disappointing, actually. But it's money and not retail, which is what I was kind of doing before that. So.
Very disappointing.
Actually, it was more boring than anything else. I couldn't even work up the emotion to be disappointed by my coworkers.
Wow. Too disappointed to be disappointed.
The story for that is that my one conversation that I had with my coworkers, I was working at the Gap at South Hills Village. And I would never really contributed to employee conversations. I just folded t-shirts. That's what I did.
Wow.
And one day someone tried to start a conversation about American Idol, which I've never really watched, so nothing to say. And then these two girls were talking about Arby's, and they're like, I don't know why my boyfriend wants to go to McDonald's. Arby's has a great dollar menu and something like that. And I was like, did you know that Arby's stands for the Raffle Brothers? RB, that's the guys who founded Arby's. And they were like, that's really interesting. And I was like, yeah, it is.
You flew their mind.
That was the last thing I ever said. I quit a couple weeks later. Anyway, side story.
Oh.
Back to the real story. So, it's April right now. And
awesome
storytelling. I was trying to think of what dish to make for this potluck. And I was just going through and it was today and I had nothing in my house except for this one recipe that I've been trying to make for weeks, and I just, it's all right, this is just so close to where I'm living right now. It's 4 blocks away. I have to go to the potluck and I have to make this dish. So I made the dish and I brought it. I tasted it and it was kind of disappointing.
Everything is disappointing.
But after I told the story about the dish, everyone was so enthralled with me that they lifted me up on their shoulders and carried me around.
I think she's talking about us now.
And they were so impressed that no one at all was disappointed.
Yay! Is someone going to carry you now?
I'm starting to get that feeling when you draw yourself, drawing yourself, drawing yourself, drawing yourself,
Or 2 mirrors that are parallel to each other. You can see it go on forever.
That's great delivery.
The dish actually, I did find it to be disappointing, for real.
Really?
What did you make? Which one was it?
It was a couscous with carrot and raisins.
Oh,
I expected it, there's cinnamon and ginger in it and mint and stuff, and I expected it to have a...
I like couscous. It's
Listen to my story.
it's the dish so nice they named it twice.
Very true. Yeah.
You've never used that line for couscous?
No.
That's my best couscous line.
I can't believe you were here for my story.
I thought we were...
You're allowed to use that couscous line in the future.
Do you hear that? Do you hear that? That's my heart breaking. Because you didn't listen to my story.
That's really disappointing.
Wow, that was awkward.
And on to Ben.